Welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Paul Mitchell. I'm your host for this show. I'm a commercial banker. I'm joined by Eric Elmore, my co-host. Eric is a consultant with the Tax Warriors, an accounting firm also known as Drucker and Scaccetti. Exactly,
Yep.
Exactly. So we're going to learn about what Eric's firm does, what Eric does, and maybe learn a little bit about banking also. We don't have a formal guest for this show, a little bit different than other shows, but hopefully we'll be able to enlighten you about some of the business issues of today.
Sure.
So Eric, you're a consultant, you're a marketing director, I understand, for your firm. So what exactly does that mean?
Well, it's a little different. I meet people all the time that are used to meeting tax staff or tax advisors from my firm. But my job is a little different. I'm not an accountant, not a CPA, and what I do is I help the firm with its brand. So a little different because we only do tax. We don't do any audit or attest work. So to get our name out there.
You don't do like a monthly financial statement or a quarterly financial statement?
We do not.
Wow.
We do not. We are kind of alone in what we do here in the area. We can be true advocates for clients because there's not that independence we have to maintain from audit work. So we can really get behind a client and help them with their tax planning, help them with their strategies, and just make a much more of a difference in their lives.
Expand upon that, you're not independent, because I thought that as a banker, we always looked to financial statements that were presented by an independent auditor so we could rely upon the statements as being accurate.
Right. Those do come from an audit, from the audit, and we just have nothing to do with that at all. So we don't have to rely on an audit in order to work with the client on their tax planning. What you find with many accounting firms is that the lead is done through the audit department. The tax department really does a lot of what the audit department, the audit department is the dog that wags the tail of the tax department. Because we don't have the audit department at all, we really can just focus on tax. We can make the recommendations to clients about what they need to do to sustain and grow their wealth without having to worry about what was said in an audit and keeping, not knowing what to say and how to help a client.
How does an auditing firm allow you to get under the covers with their client?
It's not easy, that's for sure. That's for sure. But I can say when we do have the opportunity to really lay it out and be a part of the client's financial services team, it becomes very clear that the audit work is safe. They don't have to worry about us taking the audit work. And because we have a specialty in tax, specifically in very complex tax matters, many of the accounting firms that we deal with don't want that work anyway. They don't have the expertise to go that deep and drill that deeply into tax. They're happy that we can do that, and then they can still keep the bookkeeping and accounting and part of the client work, which is what they're much more accustomed to.
So what size firm are you with that has such expertise that I could say, wow, they really know tax? They don't just have 5 people that sort of dabble in that.
Well, we're pushing 100 people right now.
Okay.
So and we're growing fast. It's been a heck of a ride. I started with the firm 7 years ago when the firm was only 23 years old, and they had 52 employees. So in the last 7 years, we've doubled in employees. The president's new tax law certainly helped that a lot, that's for sure. But I think as time goes on, people become much more aware of what a true tax advisor can do for them. They value what we can bring to the table to help them with their work and help their families and their businesses sustain and grow their wealth.
Well, as a commercial banker, traditionally, I've worked mostly with small businesses. I mean, everybody has a different definition of small businesses. If you're in New York City, it'd be a company with only $100 million in revenues or something. But I typically would deal with companies with maybe a few million to 20, 30, 40 million, that type of thing. What kind of industry size do you guys focus on?
Size in industry isn't as important as the complexity of the tax profile of the client. If there's a spot that I'd have to say we really live in the most, it's looking at the family-owned business that's entrepreneurially driven, and the business and the individual who owns the business, so a closely held business. We do really, really well for folks that have those kinds of businesses that have a family, first, second or third generation kind of a feel to it. They're looking to find a way to move it to the next generation as smoothly as they can, and as tax efficiently as they can. Those are the types of clients that we really do well with.
Now here's a question, maybe something that you shouldn't be fielding, but I feel like I'm with the audience. Amazon, one of the hugest companies in existence. They say it pays no taxes. How does that happen? How does that happen?
Yeah, I'm not the one that can answer that question, that's for sure.
What's the concept there?
They have
a tax firm with 1,000 accounting professionals or something.
Yeah, that's a little bit out of my scope. Like I said, I'm not an accountant, and I don't try to play one on TV.
You don't get your customers down to zero. Zero taxes.
Yeah, that's a nice goal. That's a nice goal.
You should pay a little bit to kind of keep them off your back or something like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So again, back to your role as a marketing director. I mean, it's not something I hear that typically accounting firms or even consulting firms have. Usually, like principals take the role as the marketing person. They go to the networking event or something like that. So you're doing that full time?
That is full time, and you're right, Paul. It's typically the principals or the partners of the firm that take the line management positions in an organization.
The rainmakers, they call them in consulting firms. Yeah.
So we started out like that. So we had a series of partners who had the role of the financial person, the marketing person, the HR person, and they reached the point in almost 10 years ago that they wanted to grow the firm. So they wanted people who were turning on the lights every day and just doing those functions and giving them the opportunity to focus on client work and grow the firm. So we brought on a COO, a human resources person, and a marketing person, me. So my role was to help grow the firm by bringing leads in, finding the right types of organizations for us to ally with so that we can find referrals in those areas, and to really build a brand for the firm. It's hard enough to try to carve out a space when you're a firm that's not a large accounting firm. There's a lot of noise in accounting in Philadelphia, and to carve out a space for us, and calling ourselves the tax warriors, was kind of ingenious because it does make people understand kind of what we do, and it makes us stand out. And we stand behind that brand very strongly. We are fierce advocates for our clients. We will scour the tax code as best as we can to help those clients to be compliant, but also to help them and their posterity kind of sustain, grow that wealth for the next generation so that business can continue. Or, if a client's looking to really sell a business, we try to make sure they understand that there are tax implications to that may be positive, may be negative for them. We call it tax as a business strategy. And businesses have lots of different ways of looking at strategy, growth or expansion, but very few actually have a tax strategy for the growth of their firm. And we make sure that they understand
Most
that's important.
entrepreneurs don't consider that much fun.
Yeah, well, it's the single biggest expense you have as a business for the most part. So it kind of makes sense to look at it in a way that
Taxes?
you can, yeah.
Oh, really?
So you
More than
got
payroll?
Yeah, in some cases, yeah.
Wow.
So you got to look at it as a way to move your business forward, but do it in the most efficient and compliant way.
Could you expand a little bit more about what your specific strategy is in terms of generating leads and all?
Yeah, we do. We follow a strategy called inbound marketing, which is used by some small businesses, not a lot of large ones. But what it is essentially filling the online world, the internet world, which is with as much of your content as you possibly can. You want people to be able to search for taxes in Philadelphia, tax strategies, tax planning, tax savings. You want them to be able to search for that and always have your firm come up as one of the top firms on that search. So we do that, through writing blogs. Our website has multiple types of content on it. We have video, we have links to very credible sources. We have blogs, we have vlogs, we have questions and answers there for folks. We want to be the single source people think about when they think about taxes.
In the greater Philadelphia community, there's been, and again, going back to my field, commercial banking, there's been a fair amount of activity in mergers, acquisitions, banks disappearing, new banks coming in from outside the immediate area, and that type of thing, especially on the merger side. And I know in the accounting world too, there's been a number of mergers, outside accounting firms buying up decent, I'll say decent size, maybe small to regional firms. How do you see that impacting your business?
We have seen that a lot, and particularly in my 7 years at the firm, I have seen that a lot in Philadelphia. A lot of the firms that were in our very building are now gone and part of larger firms. Our firm, at least for now, has been very committed to remaining completely independent and doing our own thing because we do it well and better than anybody else. So I think you'll see a lot of the smaller accounting firms continue to merge with mid-size firms that are trying to have a bigger footprint, particularly to get a footprint here in Philadelphia. But as it stands for us right now, we have no intention at this point of merging.
Or buying somebody else?
Or
merging with somebody else, whatever it's called. Talk about your marketing activities again. Do your staff get involved in marketing activities? They
do. Our staff, by and large, are the writers of our blogs, and they are the stars of our vlogs. So
a
vlog is a video blog.
Okay.
So it's only about 60 seconds long. So we take a topic and you hit about 5 or 6 really strong points about that specific topic. It's delivered to our subscription base, which is a few thousand people, a couple thousand people, and they get to see it. We do it about twice a week. So we're doing a lot of writing. We're probably writing upwards of 80 blogs a year, and getting those out to our audience.
Yeah, I get some, but hopefully not all of them, because if it's 2 a week or something, that gets a little 2 a week from one firm, 2 a week from another firm, then it's all of a sudden it's like a full-time job.
It can be. It can be. We found that's the right balance. At one point, we were doing a little more, and there are times of the year where we kind of pull the reins back a little bit. Over the summer, we'll pull the reins back a little bit. Just after April 15th, we'll pull the reins back almost completely for a month. People are pretty much taxed out at that point. But we'll do that. We'll get those blogs out as frequently as we can. And we found about 2 times a week is about what people will tolerate. And we have a relatively low unsubscribe rate. So we only see about, among our 7,000-8,000 subscribers, we'll see only 1 to 5 unsubscribes a month, which is pretty good.
Do you get the little thing where you see that they actually read it or opened it?
Yeah, we track who's read it and how long they spent on the.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, we use all of that. We use all of those kind of metrics. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
So how do you measure success in your marketing efforts?
Well, we have a platform that we use that gives us all of the metrics that we need. So what we're looking for is to beat what the averages are. So the averages is, say, about 15% open rate for your blogs going out is great. We exceed that and have exceeded that for each of the 7 years that I've been there. I'd like to claim, that was something I did, but my predecessor, the partner who led marketing before I came on, put all of that in place. So we're looking to do that. We're looking to grow our website hits every single month. The blogs live on our website, so the more people read our blogs, the more traffic we have on our website. That continues to go up every month. That's one of the other ways we measure success. And then the leads. We want to take those leads that come in and we want to close a certain percentage of them.
Sure.
And we're looking to do it at certain dollar amounts and in certain targeted audiences. So,
what's the target audience?
like right now, we are getting a lot of traffic, lead traffic on our website around international taxes.
Okay.
So we're getting a lot of people who have questions about international taxes, and that's a focus of ours right now. So we want to make sure that we're actually tending to those leads and closing a good number of them.
How about specific industries themselves?
Industries are a little less defined for us. It's more about the service line. It's more about what the specific need of the client is. So, we don't say we are, specialists in manufacturing. We're specialists in healthcare. We have people who do that work, but we do focus more on the profile of the client and what their specific need is. Every deliverable is catered and customized to what that client specifically needs.
That's great, Eric. Eric, we have a question from one of our viewers, and I
Right.
think it's right up your alley. Let me just get to it. The question is from Nancy Hillman of Philadelphia. What are some business advantages of hiring an accounting firm? You got to be specific here, not just because it's Eric Elmore that he's a great guy.
Well, Paul, first and foremost is, it's the peace of mind. You want to be able to focus on managing and growing your business. You don't want to be in the ledger all the time. You don't want to be worrying about whether your taxes are paid on a quarterly basis. You don't want to be worried about those things. Engaging an accounting firm and a tax firm like ours or whatever is something that you can do to definitely give yourself that peace of mind and let you be the entrepreneur that you really want to be.
Cool. There are a couple topics I wanted to cover with you as a commercial banker, and something that kind of relates into advisory role for companies. And one of them is that I think I had mentioned to you that on the radio I hear, and it's legitimate radio stations. I mean, these aren't mainstream radio stations. People advertising month after month after month. Invest with me. Invest with us. It usually sounds like a me, and I guarantee you above average returns and no stock market risk.
I've heard those too, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, what's your take on those?
It's got to be a sham. Got to be a sham. I mean, people have been saying that for years, decades, 100 years.
Yeah.
Bernie Madoff said it. Okay, and recently there was a front page article in the local newspaper saying, woman did a $100 million Madoff type Ponzi scheme. Same thing, promising great returns.
Yeah.
Gave them great returns the first year or two, and then the whole thing tanked.
Yeah.
And now people have lost their money.
And do you think that has something to do with, there's a lot of talk about recession coming.
Yeah.
And do you think these kind of folks kind of come more out of the woodwork and
Absolutely. One of them said it keeps when they're driving themes is you lost 40%, 45% in the stock market 10 years ago. You ever want to have that kind of heartburn again?
Right.
The other one I hear says this has been the longest stock bull market ever. Is the recession coming? You know it, and I know it.
Yeah.
That's the quote.
Yeah.
It's a scare tactic.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I mean, what did you ever hear that from your clients? What would you advise your clients?
I'm not the one that could make that call, but I gotta assume that our clients are calling us with those kinds of questions, and our folks have been through it before. They were around, when this all happened in '08. They were around, when this happened, in the early '80s. They were around when this happened.
Right,
our folks, we've been around for 30 years, so I'm not too concerned that our folks are not going to give the right kind of advice.
Well, that's the key point I want to make to our viewers is that don't make these decisions on your own, no matter how legitimate they sound, how convincing, etc. Talk to your accounting advisor, talk to your attorney, talk to other financial advisors, talk to your friends, talk to older people, your parents. People have been around for 45 years.
Yeah, I mean,
do a lot of legwork on who this party is that's going to invest your money.
Right.
Not just taking the word for it. Where have they been the last 2 years? There are all kinds of sources, legislative sources, regulation sources that you can check, et cetera, et cetera.
So, as accountants and as bankers, our firms, we do our best to make sure that we encourage our clients to have a team of advisors around them. So hopefully they will take heed to those advisors and ask all of them about what they think about this seemingly impending recession.
Yeah.
So a question for you, Paul, is around banks and who are they looking for now? I mean, is it small businesses? Real estate's really hot here in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I mean, is it a combination of both? Where are banks really focused right now?
Well, they say they're really focused on small businesses because there are a lot more small businesses than there are big businesses. Everybody knows who the big businesses are. Every large bank is swarming all over them continuously. It's not a question. It's just those bigger businesses are pretty good at negotiating pretty marginal rates.
Yeah.
Their cost of financing is pretty minimal because they got these guys playing back and forth, and they're big behemoths. They're worth $1 billion, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay, whether it's a Comcast or an Aramark or some other big company like that. So small businesses is where it's a lot more fuzzy. There are a lot more of them. Different banks have different approaches to them. Maybe different focus on industries, for example. Some banks traditionally wouldn't be interested in doing, for example, hotels. Okay, and other industries that may have their ups and downs. Commodity type industries, whether it's a company in the oil business or something like that, or cattle, where the price of the commodity can vary dramatically in weeks. Eggs, another one, an egg farmer.
Really?
Absolutely. Go to the supermarket, check how the eggs vary week to week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's happening in that business? How do you finance that?
Right.
How do you know what your collateral is? Let alone that it's going to be fresh or not fresh. Okay. So, but small businesses is where the banks say they really want to do business. A lot of small businesses say it's still difficult.
Well, in that same vein, you have so many of these online lenders that are not banks.
That's right.
These internet services, or these lenders that call themselves alternative lenders. Yes. They're seeming to pop up everywhere.
Sure.
I mean, talk to me about that. How does a small business who wants to grow make an informed decision about where to go to get their capital?
Well, like so many things, the least resistance, path of least resistance is where a lot of those borrowers are going to come from. So those non-lenders say they don't require financial statements. They may not even require tax returns. They don't require 3 years of, historical history, et cetera, et cetera. Sounds very tempting. So I mean, just a typical small business person really doesn't want to have to be, deal with all that paperwork.
Yeah.
And some, cold banker, analyzing them and making them feel insecure and that type of thing, even though they're making a decent living, et cetera. The other question, of course, is, okay, so it's easier. What's the cost? It's the cost. I mean, banking today, I was going to mention this, rates of what, 3-4% for like a mortgage. I mean, for a commercial loan, 4%, 5%. My God, for the last 10 years, unheard of.
Yeah.
These are unheard of in my 45-year banking career. I mean, for heaven's sakes, it's amazing that rates have remained so low. It's just, who cares? Basically, who cares?
Yeah.
Okay. But you go to a non-lender, and you're talking 5, 10, 15 points on top of that.
Yeah, so loans are still attractive from banks, you're saying. So,
price-wise, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you can qualify for a bank loan, that's what you want to do.
So it's kind of worth it to get to kind of provide the right type of paperwork for someone in order to.
And it's like other industries also. You want to deal with a bank that you feel comfortable with. They look the same from the outside. The buildings are colonial buildings or modern architecture or something like that, but how they do business, there's a lot of personalities involved, and there's a culture involved, that type of thing. Yeah. So you want to, like most things, shop around for 2 or 3 others. Whether it's an accounting firm or a law firm or whatever, you should go make your rounds and see who you feel most comfortable with.
That's a great segue to my next question for you, because we talked a little earlier about mergers in the accounting business.
Yeah.
Well, now we see that that is really happening here in Philadelphia in banking.
Right.
We're seeing all these banks come in from
Sure.
outside.
Yeah.
Our banks that we've seen for years here in Philadelphia are kind of getting gobbled up.
Names don't exist
or
anymore.
disappearing.
150-year-old names
Right.
disappearing.
What do you think is making that happen here in Philadelphia? What's driving that?
Well, there are the two aspects. I mean, in terms of, the big bank, the biggest bank in the country, has finally entered this, the sixth largest metropolitan area in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine? Finally, okay.
Yeah.
Chase. Okay. They want to grow, so they want to. They haven't been in a region. Go to that region. It is interesting that another huge bank that I'm quite familiar with did that about 12 years ago, and after 7 years, literally pulled their horns back and almost totally disappeared. Had 24 branches at one time. As of 3 years ago, had 0. It's a head scratcher. The other aspect is when banks get to a certain size of, let's say, $10 billion in assets now, it's where they become attractive to larger banks, regional banks that are, $200-300 million, and that's where they're going to be generally, taken over.
Yeah.
But other smaller banks that have come in, it's a head scratcher. For years, people kept saying, really, the Philadelphia market is overbanked, for heaven's sakes. Okay. Some banks grow, some banks don't grow.
Yeah.
It's puzzling.
It is. I can definitely say that. I've seen the big ones come and go here, and the small ones, just as you said, they're just kind of disappearing. When a small business is built a really good relationship with a bank,
Yep.
and they hear now that Bank X is coming to take that over.
Yep.
I mean, what's a small business to do? Should they
should
stay? Should they
Check
move?
it out. Check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. Don't make any rash decisions. You don't have to. Yeah. And besides, you really shouldn't, because you've got to develop a relationship before you make an intelligent decision. You can't say, "Oh, it sounds like an eighth of a point less. I'm going to jump. I just met the bank 3 weeks ago," or something like that.
Yeah.
In general, you should have a relationship with more than one bank. You have your bank. You should have some kind of contact with another bank. For no other reason than just in case.
Yeah.
Also, going a little bit further, and speaking as a banker, okay, I recommend that you have more than, that your banker at the bank you deal with. Do you know that bank's supervisor, their boss? Get to know them too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because your banker goes to another one of these new banks.
Right.
Okay? So
Right.
that's some other advice. So it's still a very dynamic industry. Banking is going to be around for a while. There are changes in that type of thing. Certainly a lot of challenges. But the interest rate thing is, to me, is the biggest head scratcher, because we've been in a growth situation, and interest rates have just nudged up just a nudge. But compared to historical highs, almost like barely a half.
Are there other products that are being innovated in banks these days that can give certain banks an edge with businesses?
Well, I guess there are. I'd be very cautious about that. That caused a great recession.
Okay.
So I think that's a good way to maybe end the show.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Great.
great questions, Eric, and
All right.
great perspectives on the tax accounting.
Thanks.
So
It's been a blast.
just want to let our viewers know that that ends our show, and that on this show, Money Matters, your money does matter. Good night.